Hello, everyone, and welcome to my weekly blog, Le Ricette di Giovanni, where we talk about opera, pasta, and not only, and tenor Giovanni Consiglio. My name is Stefanos Koroneos. I'm the artistic director of Teatro Grattacielo in New York City and Camerata Bardi Vocal Academy. And this year, those two institutions have launched an international voice competition called Giovanni Consiglio International Competition. And while I was doing a little bit of research about Giovanni Consiglio, which I never met, I came across a very peculiar fact. I found out that Giovanni Consiglio was a great cook. He had an apartment in Manhattan. He would invite a bunch of singers, bunch of his colleagues. They would get together, they would cook. And many times, like very often happens, people ask for receipts, and he would not give them away. And when he would give away his recipe, his recipe, and I wanted to say, he would always leave out one ingredient. So this prompted me in a certain way to start this blog where I get together with some of the people that I most love in the industry. And we talk about opera, opera paths, opera roads, COVID-19, but most importantly, what I wanted to always, what I have always had in my mind is that some of the best moments in my career as a singer have been when I was on the road with dear colleagues, that we would all get together, cook a meal, and sit around the table and share stories, and not only. And these moments were the moments that I actually, together with the moments that I was on the stage and I loved making music and telling a story, but those moments were also moments that I took with me when I went back home. Obviously, we cannot do it right now. We all have to be at home and staying safe and staying inside. So I thought that maybe it would be great to get together with some amazing colleagues and amazing friends and to cook and obviously talk about a little bit about Giovanni Consiglio and a bit about them. Without further ado, I wanted to introduce you to a Mezzo Soprano extraordinaire who comes from the same country like me. We are both Greeks, but I promise you, we will not be talking in Greek today. Okay, we both grew up in Athens. And like Giovanni Consiglio, Karolina got to New York through another country. So Giovanni Consiglio got to New York through Argentina and Buenos Aires, where he thrived for many years as a tenor. Karolina got to New York through London. And in a way, it's also kind of my story, because I went from Greece to Italy for a long time, and then from Italy to New York. Welcome, Karolina. Hi.
Hi, Stefano. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. You have no idea how much time I wanted to have you in my blog, and for so many reasons. First of all, I have to tell you that, you know, your story has moved me since the day one, because I know how it is to get to wait for the moment that something is going to happen in your life, until all the hard work that you have put into your craft becomes a reality. And I cannot tell you how proud and how happy I was when you did your first debut of the Mess as Berta.
Thank you.
But before we start talking about you, I want to ask you, what are you going to prepare for us?
Okay, so I thought, since it's summer, everybody who knows me knows I cook, but I love to bake. I love desserts. I love sweets. I have a sweet tooth. My husband has a sweet tooth. So I think this is going to be the first dessert recipe that you've had so far.
Yes.
A Greek sort of version of a semifreddo.
Okay.
It is, for most people who know what semifreddo is, it has this lovely it's like an easier ice cream, and it has this, you take it out of the freezer for 5-10 minutes before you serve it, and you cut it up, and it has this very sort of velvety, soft, luscious texture. This is why I call this a sort of like a twist on the semifreddo, because I'm making it with Greek yogurt. So inevitably, it's a little bit less creamy than your typical semifreddo, but it's made in a pretty much a similar way, just without the egg yolks, because I still think it goes very well with yogurt. And it's very summery, so it has like lemon, and it's nice and sour, and has honey and cinnamon and walnuts and all the nice Greek things, but it's got a bit of zing to it. So it's one of my favorites for the summer.
Wonderful, wonderful. I cannot wait, and I cannot wait because I love yogurt too. So you got me already there, already in the yogurt part.
That's being already so Greek.
Yes, yes, yes. You know, I don't know if you also grew up with this recipe. I remember my grandmother making boiling rice and putting Greek yogurt on the top, and yeah,
it's a comfort food, which makes no sense if you think of it. I mean, it's not even, you know, creamy, or it's a strange thing, but it's wonderful. It just hits the spot when you're in the mood for it.
Yes, yes. So I want to say that to everybody who is going to listen to us these next days. If you want to try something really out of the normal, just boil rice and put Greek yogurt on the top. It's fantastic. Okay, so before we start, one thing that I have always fascinated me in my colleagues and the people that I admire is the beginnings. I want to know from you what happened that prompted you to become an opera singer.
Well, it's a bit of a strange story, because I was singing operatically since I was a toddler, pretty much, because my dad, he loves music, all kinds of music, but he is particularly obsessed with Pavarotti. So he always listened to the Pavarotti and Friends CDs and all the famous arias. And I guess I just had that sound sort of somewhere in my mind. So as a toddler, I would walk around and, make what we consider to be an operatic sound. And people would say, oh, she's going to be an opera singer. Of course, I had no idea what that was. And then eventually I really got into singing in general. So I would sing, in school, in high school, even from elementary school, I would always be chosen, to sing the solo parts in whatever events we were doing. So in the beginning, I got into singing, Greek folk music, like Rebetika, which you can imagine is a perfect fit for a dramatic mezzo soprano. And then I would sing, jazz and things like that. And I just wanted to pursue that, and like Greek endechno, I don't know how you would describe that.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to do. And then one day in one of these concerts in high school, the father of a classmate of mine was a very big time producer at EMI Records, and he heard me. He was, I guess, impressed, and he said, you have a contract when you're out of school, but you need to go and fix your diction. I have no idea what language you sing. I don't understand what you're saying. So go take some singing lessons. And so I did. The funny part is, in Greece, as you know, at the time, especially when we were growing up, there was no such thing as a technique for pop singing or jazz singing. There were only teachers who would teach classical sound, and you just figure it out.
Right.
And I was actually determined when I went there before my first singing lesson. I remember calling my best friend back in Greece and saying, I'm going to go and I'm really excited, but I swear to you, if she makes me sing operatically, I'm going to leave. I'm not even going to stay for the lesson. And of course she did make me sing operatically. And interesting enough, because I guess she showed me some very basic things. So my voice, that was up to then very like a contralto, it was very heavy. I had no access to my head voice at all. Suddenly, I was singing, I think in my first lesson already, like high A's, B flats. So I remember feeling that wave. I mean, it still moves me to talk about it, that wave of sound running through my body, and the sort of vibrations of that operatic sound. And it was magic. It was magic. I remember turning around and thinking, I thought she was playing a recording. I thought she was tricking me. I could not believe that was my sound. And I just went back home and I declared to my mom that I'm going to be a soprano. And this is what I'm doing. I'm 17 years old. And this is my life now. I'm going to be a soprano. And little did I know. And that was it. I never looked back. I mean, I got obsessed. I started listening to, all the Kala CDs and everything. And I was a soprano, for a dramatic soprano for a very long time. So I got a little bit of that joy, but that's sort of how I got into it. And I just never looked back. I mean, it's been the biggest joy and the biggest struggle of my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I suggest let's start cooking.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's start with the process.
Yes. So this is actually semifreddo it's a very, very easy thing to make. Anybody can make it. The beautiful thing about it is it's completely customizable. So this is, bear in mind, because I'm making the twist with the Greek yogurt, I'm not adding the egg yolks, which is a traditional way to do it. I'm doing it with egg whites just because it doesn't go. But generally, it's basically what I'm going to show you is the basic recipe. Just normally would be with the egg yolks instead of the egg white.
Right.
Oh, and it's like a black canvas. You can make it with, once you learn this basic technique, you can make it with chocolate, with Nutella, with anything you want, and top it with anything you want. So very easy. The first step is we're going to whip the heavy cream. So do you want to read the ingredients maybe, just so that everybody has an idea? It's very
yes, that would be lovely. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So it's, again, very few ingredients, very simple. It's 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1 cup of Greek yogurt, and while this is actually half the fat and calories of traditional semifreddo, that's not why I'm doing it. So I believe if you're going to make a dessert, put the full, use the full fat yogurt.
Hello. Yes.
So 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1 cup of full fat, whole milk Greek yogurt. And then we have the juice of about half a lemon to a lemon, I would say about 3 to 4 tablespoons. If you like it sour and with a sort of a bit of a zing. The rind of 1 whole lemon, 4 egg whites, which traditionally now that would be the egg yolks only. And then we have just a pinch of salt for to stabilize the meringue that we're going to make. If you have it, it would be good to use a 1/4 cup of cream of tartar, again as a stabilizer, but it's going to be fine even if you don't. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then, oh, I forgot the sweetening agent. We're using 3/4 cups of honey. And then a little extra for drizzling on top. And I'm going to sprinkle it with some walnuts that I'm going to toast. So the first thing is just to make the heavy cream. We're not adding any, it needs to be cold. So that's why you leave it, the eggs need to be room temperature. That's very important. Cream needs to be cold. And actually, it's even better if you have the bowl and the whisk attachment in the fridge or in the freezer. That way you prevent making sort of ice while you're mixing it. Okay, so now you could, if you don't have a mixer, you could do it by hand, but it's it's going to be a workout. So
yeah,
it is doable, but I'm doing it, for example, with an immersion blender, which is
right.
So
is it possible to turn your phone a little bit so we can see a little bit what happens?
Yes, I'm going to actually do this now. Let's see.
Gorgeous. Thank you. Wonderful. Yes.
Perfect. So, pardon the noise.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Till it is with stiff peaks, but we don't want butter, So I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what this looks like now, so you have an idea.
So you have whipped it for about 5 minutes?
Yes. So you see it's peaks, but it's not quite super tight like a butter. Pop it back in the fridge because we want this to stay cool. And one thing I will say, if you do have, like most people, just one handheld blender, it is important. Now, I just made a mistake because the cream splattered, so I'm actually not sure if the recipe is going to work, but it's very important that you wash the whisk very, very well and dry it before you use it for the meringue, because if there's any fat in the egg whites, the meringue is not going to get stiff. So I actually just splattered some cream now. We're going to test the theory to see if it's really ruined everything. But in theory, everything should be clean when you're making the meringue, no fat. You wanted to say something though before, so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit, and then
I wanted to ask you first of all, tell us maybe in a few words, how was your debut at the Met?
I mean, are there words for this? If I had to pick one word, it was magic. Interesting. It was magic. It was very interesting that for me, what a lot of people don't know is that my Met debut was actually also my professional debut, singing a full role with the orchestra with a professional opera company. So I had sung a couple of roles in young artist programs. I had done one role in Aspen Music Festival and one role at Martina Arroyo's program. And I had done a couple of concerts, but I never actually sung a role on stage with orchestra with a professional company. So what was amazing about that, of course, the stress you can imagine and the nerves. But what was interesting was that when I stepped on that stage, the first day that we got for a technical rehearsal, and I got to sing there, I had thought that I'm going to be paralyzed by fear, and because I'm a naturally very anxious person, so I had imagined, how will I survive this? I cannot imagine my voice being able to come out even in the rehearsal. And it was the opposite. I stepped on that stage and it felt like this is what a confirmation that it was like walking back home. It was like walking into my home. It was just the most incredible feeling that this is precisely what I'm supposed to be doing. And it feels so right. And actually for me, I guess also because of the size of the voice, it was the most comfortable I've ever felt singing, just in terms of, technically. So that was amazing. And of course, because a lot of people have, my family first and foremost, but I have my chosen family, as I like to call them, my friends, all over the world, from Greece and London, people who know how hard it has been for me, and for so many years, how many years, I was trying, and it was rejection after rejection. And when I say rejection after rejection, I mean, what do you imagine? Times probably 50. As I said, I had not sung professionally before, so I could not get hired. And I was at that time, I think, 35, 34. So all these wonderful people who have supported me all these years, almost all of them traveled. I had people travel from Israel, Germany, Australia, London, Berlin, just to come and be with me in that moment. And that was probably, I would say, bigger than the actual event of singing on the Met stage. It was just a wonderful moment to share. And it was a reminder that, what are the important things? Because this is it's a wonderful and very difficult journey. But what counts in the end is actually, how you do it and what your life looks like during that journey and at the end of that journey. So to have built these friendships and to have had that support, it is the most beautiful thing. And the Met debut was a culmination of all that,
Right. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel this for me. I don't know if it was for you the same. I think that in a certain way, our soul, in other words, we learn from the difficulties. You don't take only the winning of having overcome whatever had to go through in your life, but also what you have learned throughout the journey of constant rejections and constant no's, until you get to that point when it's not a no anymore, but it's a yes. With that in mind, let's keep going on with the receipt.
Yes.
Why am I saying receipt today?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably confusing you because you want to speak Greek, and it's normal. I'm expecting it.
I want to jump and say Greek, but I will keep that.
Because we're so used to speaking in English that we go back and forth.
Right.
So now the next thing I'm gonna make I'm gonna turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Can you see there?
Yes, yeah. I can see very well.
To add the Greek yogurt in here, and I can get a spatula. Okay. So I'm just mixing the yogurt with the lemon rind. That I take care of one lemon. and the lemon juice. Now, again, I'm doing about 4 tablespoons. I like it sour. But start with 3 and see how you like it. So I'm just gonna mix these together until the juice is incorporated in the yogurt. And that goes to the side for later. Now is the only part that is supposedly tricky or scary. Let me try, and you see I dropped some cream in here while I was whisking the cream. So I'm gonna try to take that out of there to salvage the meringue.
Right.
So we will see if that's gonna work. Now for this part, there are a lot of recipes nowadays that use, when they make the meringue or the zabayon, you know, the egg yolks, a lot of people nowadays that just don't cook the egg at all. They just do raw egg and it's fine. I'm just gonna do the proper way in case, you know, we have any pregnant women or anybody who's
Right.
So all we do is a double boiler. Let me take the camera down a little bit more so you can see. Can you see her? I cannot see. No.
Yes,
wait
now you can see. Now I can see the whole thing.
But can you see the pot here? Yeah.
Yes.
So all we have is just a pot with about a finger or 2 of water in it.
Okay.
You want it to simmer but not boil.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to create a double boiler. We're going to put a heat-resistant bowl that fits on top of the pan of the pot. The important thing to remember here is A, the water should not be boiling, and B, the bowl should not be catching the water.
Okay.
You want just the steam basically to cook the eggs, not you know, not the actual water touching it.
Right.
So now it's simmering. I'm going to lower it so that it's, you know, it stays stable, the temperature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 4 egg whites. Mm-hmm. With a little bit of cream fat. I'm going to add the honey. Mm-hmm. 3/4 cups, a little less. I don't like it so sweet, but most people would probably do 3/4 cups of honey. And then I'm going to start whisking already with my hand just so the egg doesn't cook. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw also a pinch of salt in there. Whoop, it's stuck. Pinch of salt. The cream of tartar. That's about a 1/4 teaspoon if you have it. Mm-hmm. It's not tragic if you don't. And I'm putting 1 teaspoon of cinnamon in there. Now, this recipe, one of my favorite times that I've made it, I actually put limoncello in there instead of the juice of the lemon. So if you happen to have limoncello, put it. Right. That's the moment to put it in.
Okay.
A little bit of a, you know, it's lovely. It's an adult.
I know a couple of people that would appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm going to whisk this consistently for about 3 minutes. Okay. We are not actually making the meringue in here on the heat. What we're trying to do is just warm up the eggs so that they're kind of a little bit cooked. Mm-hmm. And what you want to be doing is you want to be scraping the edges of the bowl so that the edges can burn very easily. So you don't want the egg to cook there on the edges. So you just make sure you eat whisking. I'll show you what it looks like in about 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. It will be definitely creamier and a little bit fuller. And then we're going to take it off the heat and whisk it to make the meringue. Mm-hmm. It smells really good because it's the cinnamon and the honey. It smells like baklava in here. Oh my God!
Yes. So while you're whisking, can you tell me how do you experience COVID loss?
Sorry, I could not hear you. 1 second.
Yes, I'm saying while you are whisking,
Yeah.
and you also tell me a little bit how did you experience COVID loss, COVID related.
COVID, yes. So it was. I mean, we're all in the same boat, right? Everybody's struggling in a different way.
Right.
I know a lot of friends who have lost significant amount of all their income. You know, now for most of us, I think, not to minimize the financial loss. I think the interesting thing has been it's realizing how much we miss the friendships, the profession, the rehearsals, and not necessarily the stage time. So, you know, when you travel, when you're working, you often, you know, the stress of it makes you want to go home, and you think, oh, this is great, but I cannot wait to go home until this is over, and I don't have to stress anymore about my voice, and I can drink and do whatever I want, you know. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly we have all the time in the world to cook and drink and, you know, and not worry about our voices. And it is so apparent that what we're missing is, you know, that connection with the art form and with our friends. Other than that, I mean, I'm lucky on that front because, you know, I have a 1-year-old, and so that certainly keeps me sort of going. But for me, it was a little bit difficult because I had a bit of a break after giving birth. So I was really looking forward to my couple of jobs that I had. So it's been a little bit devastating, but, you know, I've been cooking and and I have the time to actually practice things that are kind of random, which is nice. Mm-hmm. You know, it's nice to not only practice, you know, roles that you're learning or audition rep and all that. So, okay, let me show you 1 second what this looks like. Mm-hmm. Actually, let me catch the phone again. There we go. Oops, sorry.
Okay. I actually cannot.
Can you? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So,
can you put your phone a little bit more down because I can see only half.
And I'm good. This is what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, it's frothy, it's fuller, but it's not quite a meringue yet. I'm taking it off the heat, turning the heat off, and now we're going to use the electric mixer. And we're going to whisk this for about, I would say 5 to 6 minutes. I'll show you when it's done. You want to whisk it on high heat. And the way you know it's done is it's kind of almost doubled in volume and it looks thick and glossy and there's sort of ribbons. And I'll show you once it's done. Okay.
Okay, love, I'm back.
Great. So,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Perfect. So all I'm doing is now I'm putting it together. So I'm folding in the whipped cream that we prepared that is nice and cold. I'm folding that into the yogurt and lemon mixture. So you're just trying, all it requires is the next few steps is that we don't ruin all the air that we bit into both mixtures. So you just very gently fold it. And then we add the eggs.
Okay.
We fold that into.
Okay.
Gently does it.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. So it doesn't matter if there's some streaks. You can see that it hasn't mixed full on. It's important. It's more important that you don't let all the air out, so that it stays. Right. That's what gives it the creamy consistency. Mm-hmm. So, and then what we do is once it's all mixed together, folded, you prepare a loaf, a metallic ideally, but you can do it in a glass one, which is a little trickier with a plastic wrap. Mm-hmm. So you just line it with some plastic cling film, make have enough overhang on both sides because you want to cover that. You don't want to get freezer, you know, scent, smell.
Right.
Put it in there. And depending on how much air you've mixed into that, you might have some leftovers. You can put it in individual ramekins or even you know, glasses.
Yeah.
And just even it out with a spatula. And it goes in the freezer for, it needs about 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Pop it in the freezer. And I'll show you the one I made last night.
I would personally lick all that that is in the bowl right now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
100% mandatory. That's the whole fun of it.
Yes.
So it's, what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap the cling film.
Okay.
Now, the semifreddo always needs about 5 to 10, I would say about 10 minutes to take it out of the freezer before you serve it, especially if it is in a loaf tin like that. If it's a whole, you know, it's in one piece as opposed to smaller portions. And you just turn it on to a plate. It should come out pretty easily. Yep. And this is a little bit messy. Okay. So then, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, I can see it very well. It's beautiful.
That's what it's like. Now that's the fun part, the decorating part. Depending on what flavors you use inside, you know, if you've made this in Nutella, I'll use a little more Nutella or some hazelnuts.
Yes.
Roasted walnuts. It's very easy to do. You just, you know, in a very low heat, just warm them up until you start smelling a little bit of the oils. So all you do is just sprinkle the walnuts. You can sprinkle some extra honey and some extra cinnamon. And this is about maybe 2/3 of a cup walnuts. You use a little bit of honey. Oh, and one other thing I was going to say, people usually try to sort of make discounts when they're cooking, and they'll put like the very cheap wine or the very cheap honey. I just generally think if you wouldn't drink it, don't put it in there. If you wouldn't eat it, don't put it
right.
there. It kind of affects the overall result. Right. So then you fill with a bit more honey on top to make it nice and sexy. So that should do it. And then I like a little bit of extra cinnamon on it because, again, Greek.
Right. We practically grew up with cinnamon.
Yes. So this is what it looks like.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. You're making me so hungry.
I know. Well, you should make it.
You know, I'm going to make it this weekend, and I'm going to send you pictures for sure.
Oh wait, I cannot wait. And then you just slice it in pieces. I can show you if you want. Now this was out a bit longer because we had technical difficulties.
Right.
Kind of melted a bit, but I will show you. Let's see. So this is kind of what it looks like. You would cut a piece like that. See, so the difference is you can see it's a little melty and creamy on the sides. The only difference from a real semifreddo, from the traditional semifreddo, is you see the yogurt part is going to be naturally a little bit icier. So that's why I don't call it exactly semifreddo. It's a freestanding semifreddo, but it's nice and you'll try it. So it's nice and tangy and a little bit of sour, and if you have limoncello, put it in.
Yes. I'm going to write to a couple of friends that they actually produce their own limoncello, and I'm sure you'll be very happy. Before I leave you, I have a last question for you, a question surprise. What
Yes.
do you want the people to know about you?
I think that that's an interesting one. I mean, I guess what people who really know me already know is that, and people that maybe don't know me that well, is that I persevere no matter what. So I think a lot of people have asked me, I've disappeared a little bit, and what is happening? Don't you worry, I'll be back.
Wonderful. I mean, I'm knowing in you because we have never sung together, but we are friends for such a long time. Hopefully, one day also we're going to get.
There's so much we can sing together.
Yes, I want to say something before I forget. Karolina will be with us this November as Marta in Boitos Mefistofele. I cannot wait to hear her in Del Catacello's production. Thank you so much, Karolina.
Thank you.
You have made my day.
It's so nice to see you, and send me pictures of the Semifreddo.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you so much and good night.
Ciao. Ciao.